We think it's an iconic logo. Many international clubs, many American clubs are going to the name of their city with FC or an SC afterwards. So we think we're being forward-looking. We're trying to lead the soccer world, not follow.
Lead and not follow. Those are the words that Columbus Crew co-owner Dr. Pete Edwards used to explain why his team was ditching their historic name and joining 13 other teams in the league that already use FC, SC, or CF in their official team name. Columbus SC is apparently leading the charge in that name department. Yeah. Okay. Now, this isn't the first time, and it definitely won't be the last time, where an MLS franchise decides to ditch the history of their team and opt for the more European approach to branding their football or soccer club. Just a few months ago, we witnessed similar events to this play out when the Montreal Impact underwent a total rebrand to Club de Foot Montreal. The original Impact were founded in 1992. They played in the NASL before joining MLS in 2012. And now, all of those years of history seemingly wiped against a majority of their fans' wishes. But again, this isn't just a Columbus thing. It's not a Montreal thing. This ideology that in order to succeed, a club must conform to the way it is in Europe is something that has plagued the sport in America. MLS is not perfect. I would be surprised if there's anyone who thinks that it is. But MLS is, or at least was, original. When the league started in '96, it was an attempt to grow the sport that was known around the world within a country that didn't accept it. They didn't try to copy and paste what worked in other countries. They did it in their own special way. The clock ticked down. There were shootouts instead of draws. And most notably, the teams created their own history. The Dallas Burn, Kansas City Wiz, Metro Stars, Galaxy, Clash, Mutiny. These were all truly unique identities that couldn't be found anywhere else in the world. Yes, it may have been weird, but it was American soccer doing it the American way. As the league grew, more clubs were added. Some stuck with the American way of naming teams such as the Philadelphia Union and the Portland Timbers, and some decided to go with more traditional names like Orlando City SC or Toronto FC. There was a good mix of both styles, but that isn't the problem. For me, the issue occurs when teams who had some sort of history begin wiping their original name for something that means nothing to their supporters. History is one of MLS's biggest weaknesses. When you're competing across the globe for recognition, why would an average fan look at a league just passing 25 years of history when other options are out there of teams that have been around for hundreds of years? Hundreds of years filled with stories, goals, titles, passion, and memories. MLS clubs continuously restart their stories and try to separate themselves with the little history that actually exists. For Columbus, it's no different. The last week has been arguably one of the worst rebrands, or how some supporters are calling it, debrands, in the history of Major League Soccer. Before going into the specifics of this rebrand, allow me to give you a brief history lesson on the origins of Columbus Crew. The club was the first chartered member in MLS. They were a part of the league since it began, and they were known for their unique badge and name. Their first crest displayed 3 men wearing hard hats, and the name, along with the crest's imagery, was to represent the hard-working people that embodied Columbus. The team was also the first club to build and open a soccer-specific stadium in the MLS. Although they weren't the most popular or recognizable team in the league, they were paving the path for soccer in the country. Now I'm going to fast forward to 2014, when they underwent their first ever rebrand, which changed the team name from Columbus Crew to Columbus Crew SC. Along with the name change, a new badge was introduced that not only modernized the original look, but also was well received by the broader MLS community. Although their supporters were not too fond of adding SC to their beloved name, the colors remained unchanged, and the Crew was still part of the official title of the club, so everything was still good. This brand revision was one of the only things that the owner at the time, Anthony Precourt, managed to successfully do. Other than that, he wasn't the most liked owner. You've probably heard of his attempt to relocate the team to Austin, but that was stopped by hashtag Save the Crew. Important note here, it was Save the Crew. Not Save Columbus, Save the Crew. I think that right there makes it pretty clear how much this name resonates with the supporters. And now we're at the present, where the new owners and front office of the Columbus Crew have decided that it was in their best intentions to ditch their historic and original name and swap it for Columbus SC. If you haven't realized yet, I'm a Columbus supporter. I wasn't born in it, I'm what you'd call a first-generation fan. I fell in love with soccer and I found the team on my own around 7 years ago. I was around for a brief stint under our first badge. I saw the change to our second ever badge. I watched Steve Clark blow the final in 2015. And maybe most importantly, I saw the team saved after Anthony Precourt tried to rip it from the city it belonged to. And after that, I saw my club fall under new ownership that brought us a championship, a new stadium, and now a new rebrand. I'm saying all this because I want to make sure whoever is watching this understands my background with the team. I'm from Ohio, so I didn't just randomly select this club. It was my local team, even though it is 2 hours away. I wasn't alive when the Crew was conceived in 1996, but that doesn't mean I didn't connect with the club's name and history. For the rest of this video, keep in mind these are my opinions, my own thoughts on this team's rebranding. I'd love to hear your thoughts too in the comments, but for now, here's what I think. It's really strange to see a team rebrand their identity after winning a championship 6 months earlier. Usually, teams rebrand when they're in a slump, or they need new energy to help regain the support from their fans. Not when they're about to hit their peak. Momentum in the Columbus fanbase was sky high. They just saved the team, they obtained new and committed owners, they won the league, and they were gearing up to move into their new downtown stadium. So it really just seems like strange timing. But when you take a step back, you can see why the owners were trying to establish a new era. Rebrands are not something that are decided on the spot. It is pretty likely that the decision to change the name and the badge has been in the works since the new owners arrived in 2018. There was no way for the decision makers to predict that the team would be hoisting the MLS Cup when they started planning this revision. Also, it's likely that the new owners wanted to make their own mark on the team and get rid of the badge that was put in place by the past owner who tried to relocate the club. As for what the team has stated about the rebrand, they were hoping this new change would help globalize the team and gain more supporters as they made their jump into their new stadium. And as of now, it seems like it's done the opposite. I find it ironic that the most global event in the Crew's history was hashtag Save the Crew. It was a lovely story that was supported incredibly well on a national level, and it made its mark in Europe as well. So, the thought that removing Crew from the official name of the team will make the club more acceptable on a global level is totally illogical. There's not any fans in other countries that looked at the Columbus Crew and decided that they were not going to support the team because of their name. I have a hard time even believing that the people in Columbus will be more likely to support this team now because they removed Crew. If this club really cared about its outreach, then tell me why they are the closest MLS team to me and I have not once seen their merchandise in stores. Yes, I may live 2 hours away, but that's how it is in America. If Columbus is my local team, why are they not doing anything to become known outside of their city? I've heard of people in Columbus who don't even know about the team. How can I go to Dick's and find a Detroit Lions jersey? Meanwhile, there's no Columbus Crew merchandise anywhere. Before we look into a global fan base, let's get a local one. The marketing of this team is non-existent outside of their city. You know what could also draw on more supporters as well? Showing that you value your origins as a team and that you are a club for the people. Since the announcement of the rebrand, the team has been at war with their largest organized supporters, the Nordecke. The team's front office showed a few of the leaders of the Nordecke the whole rebrand a day or two before it was announced. After hearing the news, the supporter group boycotted the first game, refusing to hang up any of the typical banners that were a staple in the north corner of the stadium. After the team officially announced the news to the general public, the supporters group came out with a statement condemning the club's decision to remove Crew from the name and asked for a reconsideration. It's not a good look when your club's major supporter group is actively voicing their opinions on your horrible rebrand, advocating for fans to show their displeasure and boycott the new merchandise. To me, this was the most powerful. The core of the fans that helped save this team feel so wrong done by that they wish them a farewell on their new path. What makes this situation even worse is hearing that the club was very well warned of the consequences that would come from the decision they made. In January, the front office showed two leaders of the Nordecke the rebrand, months before it was going to be announced. In an effort to help the club understand the supporters' point of view, these two supporters created an official response that covered the positives, the negatives, and the events that could happen if the team followed through with the proposed changes. If you read through the PDF, which I'll link below in the description, it reads more of a recap of events that have taken place over the last week than a prediction of the events that were made 5 months ago. This is what hurts me the most about all of this news. The club was forewarned of the catastrophic problems that would lie ahead. It was directly laid out in front of them, but they didn't care. They went right ahead with their decision, and from the outside, it looks like they didn't even consider changing their course. For me, it even seems like the ownership knew it wasn't the smartest move. It's even reported that when discussing a rebrand, GM Tim Bezbachenko told a Nordecke leader, "If we were to lose about 8,000 fans, wouldn't it be worth it if we gained 15,000? Yeah. How does that feel for those 8,000 hardcore fans? My opinions on this rebrand have changed every day since the announcement. But one thing hasn't. I feel betrayed by the club. They knew what they were doing and they didn't care for their fans. When I look back at some of the events over the last few months, I can tell they were gearing up for this announcement, all while not mentioning a thing. The new white jerseys that replaced the iconic banana kit? Turns out they were just suppressing the yellow just like in the new badge. The typical checkered flag that represents the supporters were replaced with this new design. The icon next to the Twitter hashtag was changed from the old badge to the state of Ohio, because that old logo would be no more. All of these minor tweaks that we all just accepted were just foreshadowing the real problem that would arise. Also, unveiling a new badge and name is a strange thing to do a few weeks into a new season. You would expect teams to announce everything before the season in order to start the season with a fresh look. But I think this was done on purpose. If they announced the rebrand earlier, odds are there would have been less excitement for the beginning of the year. Less merchandise would have sold, and they probably would have struggled getting supporters to purchase season tickets for their new stadium. It all just seems a little too planned out. Now let's move on to the new logo itself. I will never understand how some teams can hire professional designers and come up with such a miss. I'm looking at you too, Chicago. I get that they wanted to represent Ohio, but the shape of the Ohio flag is already odd and it does not make a good shape for a crest. In order to even fill in the awkwardly shaped badge, they had to add in a filler triangle that seemingly has no purpose other than to fill the gap. They decided to go with the classic Big C to represent Columbus and Crew, but that is such an uninspiring choice. Just in Ohio, you have the Cavs, the Indians, the Reds, the Blue Jackets, and that's just the major league teams. If you branch out to the rest of the US, you have the Bears, Cubs, Clippers, and the Avalanche. For the colors on the badge, the main ones appear to be black and white, with a very small usage of yellow that surrounds the flag. Once again, this new badge strips the team of all of its originality and heritage. There have been tons of badges created over the last week by fans that totally outperform the official one that the team probably spent a ton of money creating. It's just a total misstep by the organization. Since the explosion of backlash from this rebrand have come up, the Nordecke has met with the crew's major investors, and they sorted out a few changes. The team have agreed to go back to their first ever name, in Columbus Crew, instead of Columbus SC. They also tweaked the new badge by replacing the triangle with 96 in order to represent the team's inaugural year. Personally, I still think the new crest is bad, but looks come and go. At least the name will stay there forever. Over the past week, the situation of the Columbus Crew has been constantly changing. I'm glad to see the crew working with its fans again, and I'm excited to see their relationship in the future. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on this rebrand, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.